Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 2 of Shifting Gears. I know, still working title, but hey, it sounds cool for now. Today, I want to talk about the storyline and the story arc of Diablo itself. Now, we are upcoming into the third game, so we'll be part of a trilogy. Yeehaw! A lot of good things come in trilogies. Another trilogy that's completing is Uncharted for the PlayStation. So we've definitely seen kind of trilogies within our culture, not just in games but in movies. So later on I'm going to talk about trilogies that have worked, trilogies that have not worked, and what is the success of those story elements and taking a journey within 3 installments. Well, I know we're going to go over some classes in some other episodes. I covered the Wizard in the last episode. I think next up will be the Witch Doctor. A buddy of mine was like, hey man, come on, the Barbarian, that's my thing. It's like, I know, I'll get to him, and I might retract a lot of what I said once I'm able to play more of the Barbarian. But we'll definitely delve farther into the different classes and what they can do. But for right now, let's talk about Diablo, the first one, where it all started. Geez, was it back in 1996, where you could play 3 different classes? You had the Warrior, you had the Sorcerer, and then you had the Rogue. So the story is, okay, there's a planet called Sanctuary, and you have these 2 forces. You have Heaven and you have Hell, and they are duking it out, but they made this agreement like, hey, okay, we're going to leave humans alone. You know, we're going to make them get to choose what they want to do. Well, Hell, being the demons that they are, decide to invade Sanctuary. So we definitely see a lot of the elements of Hell in Diablo, obviously, because they take over the catacombs and the depths of Tristram, and the hero that you choose goes in there, takes him out, and actually kills Diablo, and then shoves a stone in their face. It's actually kind of crazy. Let's go ahead and look at that cinematic from what it looked like here on YouTube. This is the ending to Diablo 1 here. And so you've killed Diablo, and then you have this stone in his head. And this warrior in gear, in the canon, it's a warrior that does it. Sorry, rogues and sorcerers, but the warrior is able to take him out. He undoes the stone from the head using his awesome knife. Now watch what happens. Okay. Diablo changes. Back in the incredibly awesome 1996 computer graphics. Into this kid, okay? Freeze it. Alright. This kid was possessed by Diablo. And in order to be fully possessed, you have to have that soul stone inserted into their skull. So he's dead. And that's the body that Diablo had possessed. And, okay, this stone contains the essence of Diablo. Alright. So there he dies. His gargled death. Here's that stone. Oh, it's kind of sharp. Well, that makes sense. Went in that guy's face. Oh, let me put it in my face. Alright, the end. So why? Why did that have to happen? Well, in order to harness the energy of Diablo, somebody had to be strong enough in order to contain him. And so what the warrior does is takes that soul stone and shoves it into his head, thinking he can contain the beast, he can contain Diablo. So it's like a mortal prison, if you will. They use the mortal body to imprison these demons. One of Diablo's brothers, they did that I don't remember his name, but they did it to a guy as well, and they sealed him up underground for years and years and years and years and years, and he was trapped there, but the demon had pretty much taken over his body and wanted to get out. And you get to meet him in Diablo 2. I'm not going to worry about spoilers because this game's been out for, over 10 years, guys, and you haven't played it yet. Get on it. But I'll try to leave some surprises to you if you do decide to play the first and second one before the release of the third. Alright, so years later we have kaboom, Diablo 2. Alright? So the classes we have in Diablo 2 are the Barbarian, which is the guy bleeding on the ground. We have the Necromancer, which Diablo's about to destroy with his left hand. The Amazon, the Sorceress, and then the Paladin walking in fashionably late but ready to pwn some face. And then in the expansion pack, we had 2 more classes that were added. On the left, you can see the original classes, but the 2 on the right that are added are the Assassin and the Druid. And the Assassin being a close-quarter combat kind of person, which had these awesome Tiger Claw, not brass knuckles, but like size almost, or they almost look like Wolverine-esque 3-bladed hand instruments, which definitely dealt some damage. And the Druid could summon animals. So that's what Druids can do because they're awesome with nature. But anyway, Diablo II, this was a really fun game. A lot of people really enjoyed it. The storyline was crazy, actually. But what had happened is the warrior that had taken over Diablo's essence, Diablo took him over, and he was going to go free his 2 brothers, and he needed the soul stones to do that, or to capture their essence and make sure that they're free. Well, as the warrior that you choose, you have to destroy these soul stones. You destroy Diablo's, and you destroy Mephisto's, but Baal lives, and excuse me, wow, sneeze there. And in the expansion, Baal has conquered the areas of the north, and he's going in to take them out. Well, as the amazing hero that you are, you go in, you take out Baal, and destroy his soul stone. But what Baal was trying to do was use the world stone and to corrupt it and to take it over for himself. So in the ending to Diablo III Lord of Destruction, which was the expansion, you have this awesome guy named Tyrael, and he has to do what he has to do. Tyrael works for heaven. He is an angel. And I gotta say, for the art department of the Diablo franchise, angels look really cool. Really cool. So there he is. He's standing on the bridge towards the world stone. You have defeated Baal. There are no more Hell brothers to destroy, and he has to do his part because the world stone's been corrupted. There's his amazing sword. He says a little prayer. Looks like he's got some spiritual help coming around. In case you didn't know, any spell needs an incantation before it, even from heaven. Maybe he's praying. And he throws that sword like a boss! The world stone's annihilated. Kablooey. Definitely some cool particle effects for those kind of cinematics back in the day. So that was the end of Diablo 2 with the expansion pack. So that brings us into Diablo 3. Now, let's talk about the developers here. Blizzard North were the ones that developed Diablo 1 and Diablo 2. They're not the ones developing Diablo 3. They left the Blizzard company. They did create Torchlight, which was a fun game, but the stakes are not very high, and the story element is not there for Torchlight. It's like, oh, come to this town, oh, I gotta keep going down these dungeon levels and kill stuff, cool, and I just keep leveling up this one ability and wreck face wherever I go. The developers had also created a game called Hellgate London, which didn't do so well when it was released. I never played it. This opening cinematic for it is really cool. You could check it out on YouTube, but as far as the game, yeah, did not do too well. So, we have a completely different creative team, maybe not 100% different, but pretty new as far as the development of Diablo 3. And there were some community outrages when they first saw the pictures for Diablo 3 as far as the art and the gameplay, saying it was too light, as in it wasn't dark and gothic enough compared to the first and second Diablo. And the Diablo 3 staff's like, hey, we have to use these kind of shader effects and 3D elements, and so it's going to look different. The lighting's going to be a bit different. So, it's taste. It's different taste and different direction style as far as maybe how it looks. But with the technology we have out today, and with the differing factors as far as software engineering builds and engines that are used, new technology brings a different look to some things. So we'll see how it turns out with Diablo 3. But from what I played, I definitely enjoyed it. It definitely felt like a dungeon crawler. It honed in on the elements that made Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 fantastic to play and a lot of fun. And the PvP is out of this world. I enjoyed playing PvP more than I did the single-player demo, but it's because the single-player demo was only so long. Alright, so as far as the story, where do we go from here? Diablo's dead, Mephisto's dead, Baal's dead. Right? Well, we'll see. But we do know that Heaven is pissed. And they seem to be pissed at Tyrael because of his involvement with helping out the humans of Sanctuary. Maybe he was tired of seeing these people suffer all the time at the hands of these demons that were not playing by the rules. Tyrael is definitely a very interesting character that these guys on the writing division of Diablo 3 can either do an excellent job carrying on his storyline, or they can kind of like royally screw it up. So we'll see. We'll be optimistic and hopeful, but that is definitely an element from the first two, or from the second game, that we would like to see continue into the third. All right. Well, let's talk about trilogies in general and what works in a trilogy and what doesn't. In my opinion, the best made trilogy in cinema was Lord of the Rings, hands down. The writers, the producers, the director, Peter Jackson, knew they were going to make 3 films, okay? There are 3 books. Makes sense. They had the budget to do it. They had the go-ahead. They had the scheduled timing. They got the cast. They had everything prepped and ready to go to do it. And they created the best film trilogy, in my opinion, of all time. As a cinematic structure, as an arcing structure, as characters that you got to watch and see grow and make crucial decisions. Now, even though it's based on previous material, based on a book, and some people kind of were in uproar that, where's Tom Bombadil? Where's this? Where's that? That's in the book. You cannot have those elements in a book completely translated into a film. It doesn't work. Because in a film, you have to have a certain pace, you have to have a certain background element, you have to have certain B-stories or background stories that add to the entire experience of the film within that 2.5 hour time frame. These are longer films, 3 hours for the extended edition. So what can you do? You have to take things out. And Peter Jackson and his editors and writers did a phenomenal job of carrying over the spirit and essence of the Lord of the Rings book franchise into the film franchise. Now let's look at something that didn't have a foundation to build off of, and that's Star Wars, the original trilogy, the good trilogy, okay? George Lucas definitely had this whole universe kind of in his mind. The original story was about Starkiller and his children. And then that went into, what can be a first good movie? And that was episode 4, which kind of was halfway through the story that he envisioned in his mind. And bam, we have the original trilogy of Star Wars. And these characters grow on you. And you see an incredible growth in Luke. I mean, you see him as a farm boy in the first movie to a Jedi Knight in the third one. You see Han and Leia grow together. You see the relationships that they have with the other characters from the first and the second. So, it's definitely the trilogy that stands the test of time. And it's because of those story elements with the characters and with the overall theme of redemption and doing the right thing and becoming your own man and all these amazing elements that each of us, can relate to. I mean, I've never been a farm boy, and I've never, gotten a lightsaber, but I've had times where I had to decide what I was going to do, and some situation placed on me that I had to make a choice and to live with those choices and to grow from them. So we all can relate to that. Now, what does that have to do with gaming? Well, gaming's getting a lot more serious, boys and girls. I mean, look at Mass Effect. This third game, which will come out in the beginning of 2012, is huge as far as storyline. BioWare has staked its reputation on storyline. I know we could forget Dragon Age 2, but that element is crucial for the advancement of gaming because of the impact that they can have and the memories they can create and the inspiration that can have for them. Now you think, well, maybe it's all about the gameplay. Well, that's true. That's what separates a video game from a movie. Is definitely the gameplay and the mechanics of the gameplay, and with the Diablo franchise, it was choosing a character and to understand what the character could do, the limitations of the character, the different strategies of the character. You had to play a warrior differently than a sorcerer, and then differently from a rogue. So you definitely have tactics that you have to use, and you have to grow as far as when to use them in what situations. So that's what's so incredible about a video game experience, is that you can make those certain choices in your strategy and not have to follow a linear path as far as how to get something done. Now, what is happening in games that's getting a little bit ridiculous is they're not having a linear storyline, more or less. The Witcher 2 had this problem. They claimed that, okay, non-linear storyline, so you can completely create any type of story elements you want, any type of ending. It's like, okay, well, I mean, that's fun, but I need some canon. I need to have some sort of overarch story that I can follow, that I can understand, that I can see the characters grow in. I mean, you do see that in some elements, but it definitely misses out on more of an overall great experience instead of having to replay the game over and over again to get the different details and the different storylines. You couldn't do that in a book. I mean, they had those back in the school, back in the day I had in school an RPG book where it's like page 97, okay, you choose to go down this hallway, turn to page 128, and you go, you fell down this hallway and you died because there's an automated turret and game over. And so you go back to the first choice and you okay, you don't go down the hallway but go through this door, go to page 62. You go to page 62 and it's like, alright, so you go down the store, that's the rest of the story. So I mean, you kind of have those choices, which is fun, but what's more popular? A John Grisham novel where it's an entirely epic journey or those old RPG novels. So you see what works as far as the human understanding of enjoying a storyline and having a cathartic moment at the end where all these emotions are building up and you're seeing these characters go through a lot of hostile engagements in a video game, a lot of choices that they have to make, but there is a payoff for it. Now, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about a trilogy that just ended. I mean, we'll see if Michael Bay no longer makes any movies after this one. But this is how not to do a trilogy, okay? I'm going to talk about Transformers. The first two movies I really enjoyed, especially the first one, all right? Now, a lot of you may knock the second one. Yeah, there were some issues with it, but it was during the writer's strike. There was going to be some issues anyway. And I still had a lot of fun watching that movie. I think I saw it 4 times because I enjoyed watching it every time. The first one is in my top 10 list. I love that movie. The pacing, the humor, the action, to me, it's all well balanced. Yes, there's a lot of product placement. Maybe there wasn't enough robots fighting, but I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I love that movie. The third one. I'm trying not to throw any spoilers out there, but the third one is so divorced from the first two. Okay, the pacing, the humor's good. It definitely has its elements. They don't have character payoff. Okay, we have watched these characters for the first 2 movies since 2007. We don't see a character payoff in the third movie. All right. We already know Megan Fox is not going to be in it. She got fired because she made that Hitler comment. Steven Spielberg told Michael Bay, fire her. Okay? Stupid. It was what she did was stupid. Should they have fired her? Maybe, maybe not. That's their call. But what they shouldn't have done is put in this chick to be a replacement for Sam's love interest. Okay? We saw Sam and Michaela grow together, no matter how bad the acting was on Megan Fox's part. And then there's no payoff for that growth in the third movie. It's it's addressed like in one sentence, and that's it. So why even introduce a new element in there? Why not just have Sam on his own doing what he has to do, and then have more of the robots fighting? Well, Michael Bay wants to have this sex element within the movie, and he's trying to cater to 60-year-old kids. Like, yeah, I get that, but you already have the fan basis from the 2007 film. Why have to create a new fan basis for the third film instead of having a payoff for the fans from the first two movies? Well, Michael Bay didn't even want to make this movie now. He wanted to wait a year, but Paramount said, hey, we're going to finish it up. So that is definitely apparent, okay? And that's not how to follow up a trilogy. And the end of the trilogy is like, what? That's how we're going to end it? I mean, it's okay. That's all I'm going to say, so I don't spoil it for you guys. But that, in my opinion, is not how to do a trilogy. And the reason they did a lot of those things in that trilogy was for money. Same thing happened in Spider-Man, okay? Spider-Man 2, one of my top 10 films of all time. Spider-Man 3, no. What had happened was Sony wanted to make it with Venom. Sam Raimi did not. He says, I don't like Venom. I don't want him in this film. And Sony said, we want him in this film. He's going to be a moneymaker. And who did they cast? They cast Eric Foreman from that 70s show to play Venom. So it was a disaster right from the start. Not to knock that actor, Topher Grace. I've watched some of his stuff. He is good, but he is not an Eddie Brock character. Thomas Hayden Church should have played Brock. He should have played Venom. So I wanted to throw those elements out there to show what doesn't work in a trilogy. Okay. So in Diablo 3, what has to happen? Well, we have Deckard Cain. That's apparent. All right. I don't know if they're going to address what the canon is as far as Diablo 2 going out, who destroyed him as a group effort or whatnot. But what really needs to be addressed is Tyrael. And what is Heaven's position on what's going on? Because we know they're mad at him. But what are they going to do about it? And let's go to the cinematic here and talk about what we can see. All right. Well, there's a match. So this chick is speaking, okay? I forgot her name. It might be Leia. But she's talking about her feelings and evil being gone and whatnot, and something doesn't feel right. Okay, so start of any horror movie, you think. But it's been quite a number of years since the defeat of Diablo 2, or since the defeat of Diablo in Diablo 2. All right. So here's the announcement for Diablo 3. And places have definitely been ransacked by the forces of hell. I remember Loot Go Lane. That place was awesome, especially the music. Loot Go Lane, as Deckard Cain said. So that's another element in Diablo 3 that I'm really looking forward to, is the different cities we get to visit, and maybe more of Sanctuary that we haven't seen before. Is that a wizard meteor being cast? Pray for the mercy of a swift death. Yeah, I can imagine that. Alright, so here's the hellish forces invading. There's Tyrael destroying the World Stone. Okay. Looks like Tristan. There's that chick maybe investigating what's going on. There's Deckard Cain. There's Diablo. Official, ladies and gentlemen, that is Diablo. And that's a bad dream. I agree. I don't think it's safe here. So, the story elements of Diablo 3, if they hone true to the spirit of 1 and 2, and if they give us, as gamers, a payoff in the end of having been emotionally invested in the first and second game, then I believe it'll be a great success. Aside from the outstanding gameplay and the outstanding PvP. I'm just focusing on the story elements right now. So, we shall see. We shall see. Hopefully, they did a good job as far as the writing. The writing is a foundation for any good story. It really is. In Hollywood, you don't have a film without a script. And that script has to be tight and it has to be solid. In the gaming world, they conceptually have ideas for games, but the story has to have a script. It has to have acts. It has to have a climax. It has to have a prologue, an epilogue. That might not be the titles when you see it, but it has to introduce the audience member into what's going on, to introduce this world and why it matters. Because you playing a character that you get to select, you're the main character. So the backstory and the lore, you can check that out for yourself to get more out of the game. But you do make that journey, but that journey needs to be in a story arc that is a lot of fun to play and keeps you engaged and rewards you for playing more and more, and to have an enjoyable experience, a wonderful experience. Mass Effect 2, in recent memory, was one of the best gaming experiences of all time, as far as the writing and the pacing, and it was wonderful. StarCraft 2 was a lot of fun to play. To me, I really enjoyed the single player. Were there some plot holes? Yeah, if you do an in-depth analysis, there could be. Was there a non-linear story to it? Yeah, it was cool because you got to choose which missions you do. So that kind of non-linear pacing was fun because it did add to the overall story of what was going on, but you could choose when to do what mission. So was it a success? Most definitely. Heart of the Swarm, we'll see where the story's going to go. I really liked that Jim Raynor, in the end, got what he wanted in StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty. But we'll see, because there's still 2 more installments to go there. All right, guys. Well, that's my story analysis of Diablo, and that's just how I feel about trilogies and what is successful in a story. And hopefully what we see from Diablo 3 will be a great entertainment and a great experience in the single-player campaign as far as the story and as far as dishing out terrible, terrible damage against these demonic forces. So thanks for tuning in, and the next episode we'll talk more about Diablo 3. See you later.